Hello, Photo 130. This is the recap for week 4. What you guys are currently working on is the group critiques for the first project, the shutter speed project. And I've been keeping an eye on that through the discussion posts out in D2L. Looks like it's going really, really well. I see some of you guys are trying to reach out to each other over Skype, if they're phone calls or other manners of getting a hold of each other. I fully encourage that if that is not an option. Again, the discussion section in D2L is also a really good option. Again, from what I've been seeing, it looks like it's going really well. I did have someone come up and ask me, or rather email and ask me, exactly where are these supposed to go out in the Wyden Collective area. And I think that is a really good question in case that wasn't completely clear previously in one of the other video posts. So you can see myself right out here, I'm logged into the Wyden website. And that's what we have up. If I go in, I'm just going to search for a student from, I know, last semester that does not have any posts. So I'm going to pull up one of my former students. Let's pull up one of his images, and we'll go into the comment section. So I'll scroll down, and actually I'll pull up, actually let's go ahead and take a look at one of his shutter speed pictures. This is Asa, was a former student. This is a slow shutter speed submission from last year, actually. If I go over into the comment section, you can see somebody else actually posted out here. So in order to do that, this isn't a private comment. Otherwise, I would not be able to see this. It would be directed towards Asa. So create public comment, and what that allows is for everyone in the class to be able to see this. So you see that, it does have a limit of 1,000 characters. So when I ask for a summary, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Not necessarily a copy paste of all the thoughts from the group, because that'll likely be a lot more than just 1,000 characters. It is a summary, which person number 1 in that group will be taken care of, and they will be summarizing the content and the thought from the entire group of 5 people. We are critiquing 2 separate images. There's 4 total files. Just placing in one spot out here is sufficient enough. So I always recommend critiquing or placing a comment on the Photoshop file, the final project that exists out there, instead of the original raw file. So again, that's going out in the section, selecting comments, and then going into create public comment. If your group finds that you are going past the 1,000 characters when it comes to summarizing for both pictures, certainly use the other Photoshop file that is posted. Go back a little bit. So I go ahead and I select on, this is his fast shutter submission. I go out here, I click on his name again, and again, if you're finding that you just have too much information, more than 1,000 characters between the two, certainly split those up and post them on each file that's out here on each Photoshop file. And just a quick recap. This is a summary, not a copy and paste of all the comments. Like I said, I've been hopping out into the discussion panel that we have out here, and your responses are quite lengthy, which I think is really good. There's a lot of thoughtfulness going into the responses on here as to what could be changed, regarding subject matter, whether or not it worked well or didn't work well for this project. I've seen a lot of really good things posted out here, and I'm excited for the rest of the semester based on how well this first critique is going through. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself as we're going through this process and just doing the quick recap, but I do want to let you know that I have already posted the critique form for the upcoming project. I did slightly tweak this, so I think it narrows it down a little bit more, especially since you guys are conversing. Some of you, again, just by discussion posts, some of you are able to link up and talk on the phone or talk through some other application. But this other critique form that is newer, and I think like I said, it's tweaked a little finer. You'll see that this is for the depth of field project. In my in-class section, I actually have them check off, and I have them go through and fill out the metadata as they're critiquing a person's work. I think it's a good place to go back and refer to, and it's when we get down to the technique and craftsmanship. If we see that there is a whole bunch of digital noise in one image, like, oh, well, actually, for your deep depth of field, your ISO was set to 32,000. This is why it's noisy. This is how you can reduce it and then compensate with one of these other 2 settings instead, or if it comes down to adding additional light. So I think this becomes really, really helpful. Not something you guys have to do, since your comments are going right on the Wyden page where that metadata is listed. So you guys don't have to fill this out. But again, the other areas in here that have the questions that you're critiquing are narrowed down a little bit more. Some of them are kind of jointed. I did see that there was some overlap, so I'm trying to make it as concise as possible. So you'll see that this has slightly changed, and so review this for this upcoming project. Like I said, I didn't want to get too far ahead of myself, but this does exist out here as of now. So this will be started technically on Monday morning. You can start the critiquing process for the depth of field project. What we also have running concurrently, because I normally run classes 2 days a week, so the first day, we're working on a principles of design in-class exercise, and you guys online out in the virtual world, you're independently submitting one design principle per person for the class. So I've seen some people already posted stuff out there, which is really great, staying on top of that and going through and make sure you're following the guidelines in this sheet that I have posted out there as well. Like I say, we're looking for, there's a particular theme to kind of keep it all cohesive and have it make it look like a completed project. If you're curious what the other classes are submitting, like I said, I've had all 3 on-campus courses go through this process. Let's see if I type in group 1, what's going to populate for me. All right, so if we're looking at group 1, again, on campus, I have kind of a different advantage and disadvantage. One, a lot of the classes, or at least location-wise, it's really cold. We stayed within the building, so when they go out and shoot something, it's all within the same confines. But it's also interesting to see what comes back, given that nobody can really leave this space that we're working in. So if you're curious out here, if you go and, again, type in things like group 1, group 2, you'll end up seeing some of the other design principles that were submitted, and these are all taken within the communication technologies on Stouts campus. If you still have to take your photo for this, just make sure that's submitted out there by Sunday evening. What we have coming up next week is a black and white slash duotone exercise. There is a backup or supplemental material that we created about 1.5 years ago, posted out to the stoutphoto.video website on YouTube, or not website, our channel on YouTube. I'll be creating an up-to-date tutorial based on a current photograph, so we can walk through that process as well. But that's what's on the docket for this coming week. By now, you likely have sufficient photos loaded onto your desktop to work through this exercise. If you don't, or if you're out taking photographs this weekend, for this particular exercise and for what we'll be working into next week, I would suggest finding, if possible, some sort of architectural photo that has a good amount of line and some texture, and perhaps even some skyline, especially if there's some clouds included in it. Those make for excellent subjects to go ahead and convert through this process that we're going to be working on. Again, this coming week, we'll be having an exercise, and as well as a lecture on the impact of color and black and white. If you've taken a look at the schedule, actually that is our critique form. I'll close it up quick. There we go. If you've taken a look at the schedule recently, so this is what we're looking at for, I guess, coming up into week 5, the black and white duotone exercise. So that's next week. It's going to be a really relaxed week in a manner of speaking, and as well as the online lecture that will be posted. On campus, we have an open lab, and again, that amounts to that 2 hours that you would be physically here that you should designate for taking photos for upcoming projects, or if you're working on resubmitting anything as well. So we have open lab, and that's would be the second day of class, is what's available there. And again, that'd be 2 hours designated when you would normally be on campus and sitting in a lecture. So next week will be dedicated towards working to put something together for the exercise, because that is a points awarded item, as well as preparing something for the impact of color project that we do that following week. For now, I hope that you're really getting a good handle on the mechanics of your camera, the capabilities. The first 2 projects that we have are rather intensive when it comes to mechanics. There's a method to that madness. So the first 4 weeks of the course, whether you're virtually tuning in, or if you're showing up on campus, is we're working through mechanics, working on technical expertise, making sure you can get those adjustments. A lot of people end up taking the most amount of photos within this first month. That's kind of the expectation, because practice, practice, practice. Get you familiar with those buttons. And it's expected that, I don't know, 80% of the pictures are either too bright, so they're overexposed, or too dark and they're underexposed. But that's the point of really getting to know your equipment and its capabilities. As you go through, you may get fine-tuned where you may still take the same amount of photos if you're taking a lot, but they should all be much better exposed and working in that correct direction. So if you've taken a look at this, the black and white and impact of color are less intensive when it comes to manipulating your camera settings, and more towards setting up and finding shots and then doing some post-production editing afterwards. So I hope that you guys are all having a great week leading into a nice weekend. It looks like spring outside. We only got another just over a month. If I looked at that, the sun's out, but it's still just under 20 degrees here. So keep the questions coming via email if you do have them. Again, I don't mind if you shoot me a text message as well. Just identify yourself and the fact that you are in 930C for the section. For the uploads, recall that make sure they're going into just 930C as you're going through the upload process. But again, you guys have been doing a really good job in that. Let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you guys have a great weekend.